Okay, we are going to continue with topic 7. You are in the course everybody knows, and we're covering 10 topics that everybody knows about, but for some reason won't talk about, or sometimes won't do anything at all about them, but complain about them. Topic 7 is this, or this is the problem related to topic 7. And this has been something that I've worked on for years because I've seen it. When I started talking about respect and responsibility, the biggest roadblock to responsibility were the excuses that were built around circumstances and environmental problems and genetic problems or genetic circumstances. In other words, how you're put together. Crimes get committed and circumstances always brought up. Wrong side of the tracks, rough upbringing, father beat the person. The list goes on with the number of things that they can come up. And what happens is sometimes these circumstances are just used as an excuse. And the premise here is that we're determined and we can't change. It is true that when we're born, there is a path we're going to follow in life that is determined, and we don't have anything to do with it. But you can change your response to the influence. And if you provide anyone enough excuses, they'll give you the evidence to support your belief. And teachers have been forced to do this over and over by a system that's outside of education. Because things changed around us. Things changed around education. Somewhere along the way, something happened where we have been placed, and I mean educators have been placed in a position where we have to put up with certain behaviors because of the fact that this kid just can't seem to contain himself or control himself. And it is intergenerational. Mom and dad probably have the same problem. And what happens is we don't have a leg to stand on when it comes down to discipline. And we have to begin to take a close look at this because this whole system is being forced down our throats by a dysfunctional society. So we see too many excuses for inappropriate behavior. There's far too many. You could come up with all manner of excuses. 2 kids have a fight, 1 kid has an excuse. Kid gets out of his seat, he has a reason for getting out of his seat. Kid uses profanity, well, he cursed at me. Kid throws a pencil, another kid throws a book. They always have an excuse for everything that they do. No homework, come up with a reason for it. It is amazing. If you give people enough rope, they will come up with an excuse for every inappropriate behavior that they exhibit. And these excuses are built around the genetics and the circumstances and the environment. It's either how I'm made, what happened to me, or the environment that I live in. And we've got to take a closer look at this because the premise here is that that's who we are. In other words, the environment did it to me. My grandparents did it to me. My parents did it to me. My boss is doing it to me. My kids are doing it to me. And we end up reacting all the time because we're always looking at something that did it to us. Genetics did it to me. It's all over the place. You could come up with a reason for anything if you look hard enough. Here's the point. Circumstances only influence, they don't determine. See, because what we can do is we can change our response to the influence. Whatever's all right, I'll give you a perfect example. Person has diabetes, genetically predisposed to diabetes. He can change his response to the fact that he's genetically predisposed to that condition by doing what? Watching what he eats, exercise. Now, he may still get it, but he is taking a proactive approach to be sure that he doesn't. Or if he gets it, it will not be quite as bad as it would have been if he just ate anything he wanted, did anything he wanted, never exercised, and laid around. You provide enough excuses for people, you'll find the evidence that will support your belief. And this insane attitude has been shoehorned into education by a dysfunctional system. And we've got to stop the madness. And you're going to find out how when you get to the solution section. But realistically, when you look at this, there's not a lot of support for it. In other words, they would rather allow the excuse. People get let out of jail behind excuses. And their behavior is no different when they get let out. So let's back up on this. You give me enough excuses, I'll provide you the evidence to support your belief. That's all there is to it. I'll give you the evidence if you let me continue to do what I'm doing. Can't change our response. We can change our response to the influence. Genetic influences, environment, and there's plenty of people who have done it. So let's not get to the point where we start to believe that once we sink our teeth into this idea of determinism, that we won't be able to change. We will be able to change if we take a real good hard look at ourselves, and if kids start taking a look at themselves, and we stop giving kids excuses for inappropriate, irresponsible, disrespectful, and absolutely unkind and unrealistic behavior that should never be tolerated in society. Remember, the circumstance, whether it be environmental, genetic, or any other circumstance, only influences, it doesn't determine. Our belief is that we are determined. That's who we are. But we're influenced by those factors in our life, genetic and so on. The genetic factors, the circumstantial factors, the environmental factors, all of that. These excuses are built around that. We're back to our thesis here. And we have to really take a good hard look at this if we're going to ever consider changing the behavior of our students that we work with in education today. And moreover, helping them become successful adults who don't look at this from a standpoint of, I can get away with anything, or everyone will just say, hey, no problem, we understand. That's topic 7. There's your problem. You're going to find the solutions in your course. Remember, no excuses.